beauty, grace, elegance in motion. These words have been used to describe the unique smooth gait of the Tennessee walking horse. Barbaric, cruel, and inhumane. These words have been used to describe the painful and illegal practice known as soring. Simply put, soring is the use of pain to accentuate a horse's gait or manner of walking. This unscrupulous procedure is a shortcut to the patient, extensive training required to turn a well-bred horse into a winner. In an effort to stop soring and other inhumane practices, Congress passed the Horse Protection Act in 1970 and amended it in 1976. The act was passed because Congress realized that soring was not only cruel to horses, it also constituted unfair competition and burdened domestic and foreign commerce. Although the law covers all breeds of horses, provisions of the horse protection regulations and subsequent enforcement have focused primarily on the Tennessee walking horse and the racking horse. The Act authorizes U.S. Department of Agriculture representatives to inspect and monitor all horses at any shows, sales, auctions, or exhibitions. On-site examination of the horse is carried out by veterinarians from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Veterinary medical officers work alongside horse industry inspectors, known as Designated Qualified Person, or DQPs. This group consists of veterinarians, farriers, and other knowledgeable horsemen who have received formal training and have been licensed by a certified horse industry organization to conduct inspections. This monitoring requires extensive knowledge of the Horse Protection Act and the Horse Protection Regulations. Standard methods of inspection and consistent interpretation of the law are essential to the success of this program. There are a number of job duties and responsibilities that need to be remembered when conducting examinations. The Veterinary Medical Officer, or DQP, should begin the inspection process by reviewing the horse protection regulations with show management personnel. It is the responsibility of management to furnish adequate inspection space, including shelter from the elements, access to electrical outlets and adequate lighting, and a means to control crowds or onlookers in order that APHIS personnel may carry out their duties without interference and with a reasonable measure of safety. The inspection station should be located in an area that will give inspection personnel direct and constant surveillance of all horses being presented for inspection or in the designated warm-up area. This will lessen the opportunity for the exhibitor, the owner, or any other show personnel from doing anything that might violate the horse protection regulations. Inspection personnel are responsible for providing equipment and items such as a current copy of the horse protection regulations for quick review and reference, a copy of all required forms to document examination findings, a notebook and pen, a calibrated scale to accurately weigh acceptable action devices, test weights for confirming the accuracy of the calibrated scale, accurate measuring devices including a ruler and soft tape measure, a flashlight and a camera to visually record and document inspection results. These items are necessary for each inspection and are important tools in identifying sore horses. The Horse Protection Act prohibits the use of any device, method, substance, or practice if, as a result of such use or practice, the horse can reasonably be expected to suffer physical pain or distress, inflammation, or lameness when moving. Action devices are generally referred to as any device that is placed on a horse's leg in a manner that allows it to either rotate around the leg, slide up or down, or strike the hoof and surrounding area. As part of their responsibility, inspection personnel must determine which action devices are acceptable and which are not. These are listed as specific prohibitions in the horse protection regulations. Rollers made of hardwood, aluminum, or stainless steel with individual sections of uniform size and weight are acceptable only if each such device, including the weight of the fastener, is not more than 6 ounces. All other beads, bangles, rollers, and similar equipment or devices are prohibited. Some chains may be used, but they must have links that are uniform in size, weight, and configuration. They cannot weigh more than 6 ounces each, including the weight of the fastener. Chains that have twisted or double links, as well as chains with drop links, are prohibited from use. The list of prohibited action devices not only includes the items previously mentioned, it also includes chains, rollers, boots, collars, or other devices that are not smooth and free of protrusions, rust, and rough or sharp edges. Additionally, chains must not touch the horse's coronary band or be attached in a manner that will cause the horse distress, pain, or suffering. Acceptable action devices may be used, but are limited to 1 device on any limb of the horse. The list of prohibited devices as specially applied to yearlings includes any weight being used on these horses except a keg or conventional horseshoe, and any horseshoe that weighs more than 16 ounces. In addition, no pad or other device may be used on yearlings that would elevate or change the angle of the hoof in excess of 1 inch at the heel. The examination of the horse begins by observing the manner in which the horse moves as it is led away, turns around, and returns to the inspection area. The examiner should make sure the horse moves in a free and relaxed manner. If this is not observed, particular attention should be focused during the examination to find any areas of soreness. Horses should also be closely checked for improper action devices, foreign substances, and other technical violations. Toe length should exceed the length of the heel by 1 or more inches. Toe length is determined by measuring the distance from the center of the hoof wall on the coronary band to the ground. The heel is measured from the most lateral portion of the rear pastern at a 90-degree angle to the ground. That portion of caulk at the rear of the horseshoe in excess of 3/4 of an inch should be added to the height of the heel in determining the heel-toe ratio. Care should be taken in accurately determining the heel-toe ratio because non-compliance constitutes a violation. Artificial extension of the toe length, whether accomplished with pads, acrylics, or other materials that exceeds 50% of the natural hoof length, is prohibited. The metal hoof bands that anchor pads and shoes should be examined closely. They should not be easily or quickly loosened or tightened by hand, such as with a wing nut or similar fastener. The bands must be at least 1/2 inch below the coronary band. Any pads attached to the hoof must be made of leather, plastic, or similar pliant material. Only acceptable hoof packing such as pine tar, silicone, or sponge rubber, designed to maintain adequate frog pressure, is allowed between the hoof and the pad. Lead or other weights are only allowed on the bottom surface within the horseshoe and may not extend below the bearing surface of the shoe. Single or double rocker bars on the bottom surface of horseshoes, which could cause a horse's weight and balance to be focused on a small fulcrum point, are prohibited. On a post-show examination, a low chain violation is checked by positioning the fastener in the pocket area and then firmly pulling the chain forward and down before releasing. Uniform examination for low or loose chains should be done by holding the horse's opposite leg off the ground. If any of the chains touch the coronary band, it constitutes a violation. It's important to remember that the use of all substances above the hoof of any Tennessee walking horse or racking horse while the horse is being shown, exhibited, or offered for sale is prohibited. The only exceptions are those lubricants, such as glycerin or petroleum jelly, that have been furnished by management and applied under supervision after the pre-show inspection is completed. The inspection procedure continues by quietly approaching the left side of the horse and gently placing your hand on the horse's shoulder. This contact establishes your presence. Be aware of the custodian's conduct. The horse should be controlled with loose reins and should not be distracted during the examination. Palpation is started in the flexor or rear surface of the pastern by applying pressure sufficient to spread the thumbs or slightly blanch the thumbnail. Care should be taken to palpate the horse's pocket, the bulbs of the heel, the inside surface of the pastern, and the outside surfaces of the pastern. As you continue to palpate the rear surface of the pastern, you should turn towards the front of the horse to look for pain response in the head and neck. While continuing to hold the horse's foot in this position, extend the foot forward and examine the front or extensor surface. Continue to check for inflammation or pain responses as you uniformly apply pressure to these areas. Be sure to check for swelling, edema, heat, wounds, and other signs of trauma that may indicate soring. The same examination procedures will be used on the horse's opposite leg. Consistent and repeatable foot and leg movements in response to palpation are indications that a horse may have been sored. Other responses to pain may include abnormal reactions of the eyes and ears, abdominal muscle contraction, pulling back, sagging or shuffling the hind feet forward in an attempt to shift weight to the rear legs, changes in respiration rate, or excessive sweating. The horse's head should also be watched for pain responses such as the raising, lowering, or turning of the head. It should be noted that the examining official has the authority to use methods other than palpation procedures to determine when a horse is sore. It should also be remembered that in most cases, conventional inspection methods and normal palpation procedures are sufficient in determining soring violations. Additional inspection procedures, such as the use of hoof testers, the detection of a digital pulse, or having the shoes and pads removed to look for pressure shoeing or hoof trimming violations, may be utilized. An inspection is not limited to the front feet. If there is reason to believe the horse has been sored in the rear legs, these may also be examined. In addition to examining the horse for pain, one also needs to determine if the animal is in compliance with the SCAR rule. For all horses born after October 1, 1975, the anterior lateral, and the anterior medial surfaces of the fore pastern should be free of bilateral granulomas, other bilateral pathological evidence of inflammation, or bilateral evidence of abuse indicative of soring. The boundary between the anterior and posterior portions of the pastern can be determined through the use of either the flattened hand or neurovascular bundle methods. In the flattened hand method, the palm of the hand, fingers together, is placed firmly against the back of the pastern. Any part of the pastern covered by the hand is part of the posterior surface. Any scarring or uniformly thickened skin not covered by the hand is not in compliance with the SCAR rule. The neurovascular bundle method utilizes a group of veins, arteries, and nerves that run down the sides of the pastern. This bundle is located by finding the back surface of the pastern bone and then placing the upper surface of the nail of your index finger against the back surface of the bone. The fleshy part of the index finger is now covering the neurovascular bundle. Any scarring or uniformly thickened skin covered by or extending forward from the finger is not in compliance with the SCAR rule. If there is still uncertainty over the location of a scar, a soft, flexible tape measure will be used to measure both the circumference of the pastern at the level of the scar and the distance from the posterior midline to the end of the scar. If the scar measurement exceeds 17.5% of the circumference, it is too far forward and not in compliance with the SCAR rule. The posterior surface of the pastern, the sulcus or pocket, may show bilateral areas of uniformly thickened epithelial tissue if it is free from proliferating granuloma tissue, irritation, moisture, edema, or other evidence of inflammation. Uniform thickness is determined by stretching the skin of the posterior surface. If the folds disappear, the skin is uniform. If the cords, ridges, or buttons remain, the skin is not uniformly thickened, and the horse may be in violation. If the veterinary medical officer or designated qualified person determines the horse is in violation of the Horse Protection Act, the custodian and show management must be notified. The necessary documents must be completely filled out. These records, along with supportive case documentation such as photographs or videotapes, should be submitted to the Horse Protection Coordinator or HIO within 3 days after the show, exhibition, sale, or auction is over. Your performance in carrying out the examination and the thorough and timely reporting of your findings can go a long way towards eliminating the inhumane practice of soring. By carefully following the guidelines presented in this program, you can ensure that the beauty, grace, and elegance that are trademarks of these special horses are achieved without pain.